Hi everybody, this is Justina with JustynaTHandMade. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to sew up this new pattern of mine. This is a basic zipper pouch pattern that I decided I probably should have in my mix of patterns. And if you are following me for a little bit, you already know that my patterns usually come with a little twist. I just like to sew things the way I do, and just like to make it a little easier and streamlined. Like I said, this is a new pattern. In the pattern, you're gonna have two sets of cut lists. You're gonna have one cut list for the smaller pouch and one for the larger pouch. They are not that much difference in size, it's just the height of them. This one is 4.5 inches tall and this one is 5.5 inches tall. They are both 8 inches in width. I like to have options, so I decided to put the pattern together and give you the option to make a taller or a shorter pouch, so you can choose which one you like. As always, you can grab this pattern from my Etsy store. The link is in the description box below. The full supply list is included in the Etsy listing, so you can check the supply list, make sure you have all supplies needed to put your project together. And also a note, this pattern doesn't come with printable pattern templates. Everything is cut based on measurements, so I would recommend for you to have a quilter's ruler on hand before you start cutting your project. It's gonna make it very easy, and because you can easily cut it based on measurements, I didn't want to waste any paper and make you print out pattern pieces and cut the paper out and then cut the fabric. I think it's double the work. So like I said, this is a cute little basic pouch with just 3 panels. Inside I created a lining panel that folds to create a pocket. You can repeat that on both sides, so you have, instead of having a plain lining on one side, you can create 2 lining panels with the pockets. It's up to you, just cut the bigger size of the lining. And obviously that's also it's customized, so you can then create 3 smaller pockets or 2 larger pockets like I created in the larger size pouch. Also, I decided to use small pieces of vinyl for the base of my pouch because I just like it to be a little more waterproof. But if you don't have or don't feel comfortable sewing with vinyl, you can just use woven cotton. I would just make sure that I'm gonna interface it, or use a piece of waterproof canvas, and that's gonna replace the vinyl perfectly. You don't need to even interface it. I hope you are already a subscriber to my channel and you've been enjoying my sewing tutorials. If this is the first time you came across my channel, please make sure to subscribe, and if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to hear from you, so leave me a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you have any questions, please reach out. You can reach out to me through YouTube or directly on Etsy. Etsy is faster, so FYI, if you need help urgently, please make sure to reach out to me on Etsy. Or if you are a Facebook group member, I'm always monitoring the Facebook, so drop a note there and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And now, if you want to see how this little pouch comes together, please keep watching. To start our project, we're gonna prep all our pattern pieces, cuts, and our supplies. All those cuts are provided in the cut list. There is a separate cut list for the small and the big version of the pouch. Follow the cut list for the size of the pouch you want to create. So here I have my small one cut out, and I have my 2 outer pieces. both are lined with the Sew Fuse Plus. Then I have my outer base. That's not interface, it's just a piece of vinyl, and it's sturdy enough for a small pouch. Here I have my two lining pieces. So I have the plain lining piece, and I interface it with the Sew Fuse. And I have my lining piece, the one that's going to create the pocket, and it is also lined with Sew Fuse. Also, I have a piece of number 5 zipper tape. I have my back tag, which is totally optional. I have my rivets to attach my back tag. Also, I have a zipper end and my little screwdriver to attach it to my zipper on the end of the project. And obviously, I'll need the zipper pull. Also, I'm gonna be using Gutenberg Mera 70 polyester thread through the project, and the stitch size I'm going to be using through the project is 3.5. That's going to be included in the notes on the screen through the project. So when we have all our supplies ready, we're going to start our project with attaching our base to our outer panels. And if you are using a directional fabric like myself, just pay attention. You don't want to have your pattern upside down. So this is the final layout. So I'm going to make sure that my little vases with the flowers are the right side up, and attach the vinyl panel along the longer edge. Now I'm going to take my second outer panel, and now I'm gonna flip my base panel, and again attach the other longer edge to the longer edge of my outer panel. So now I have my base panel in the middle, and I have my two upper outer panels attached to it. And now that I have that prepped, I'm gonna take my project to the machine, and I'm gonna sew along those two long edges, making sure I'm just sewing through one panel at a time. And I'm gonna be sewing with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, making sure I'm back stitching on the beginning and on the end of my seam. Now that I have my panels connected, I'm gonna finger press the seam allowances to the side where my vinyl or base panel is. And when I have them nicely pressed, I wouldn't recommend taking it to the ironing board, especially if you're using vinyl, because you may damage your vinyl. Or if you want to be very careful, you can do it, but I think finger pressing is enough. So now that I have my panels finger pressed and the seam allowances are behind the vinyl panel, I'm gonna take my project back to the machine, and I'm gonna top stitch along those two edges on the vinyl side with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that our panel is top stitched and now it lies nice and flat, now we're gonna work on our zipper. So first, I always recommend to test your zipper before you attach it if you're using a zipper tape, to make sure that it works properly. Mine seems to be working just fine. So now I'm gonna square off one pair of the ends, and I'm gonna use my method with the lighter, but you may take it to the machine and you may wanna base stitch it, or you can even hand base stitch it so it holds in place. Just remember, when you're using this method, don't burn your fingers. Now that we have the zipper ends squared off, we can work on attaching it to our panel. Now you want to see which side you like better pattern wise, or maybe your top stitching was better and that's going to be your front side. I think I'm fine with the way things are. So now I'm gonna take a ruler and I'm gonna measure 3/4 of an inch from the left side of my project, and that's where I'm gonna place my zipper tape. And here I'm gonna measure 1 inch and mark it on my zipper. And now that I have my project prep like this, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna baste the zipper tape on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length from the beginning of the zipper to that point, making sure I'm slipping the end of my zipper, the tail end of my zipper, so it's not sewn all the way through to the end. So take the project to the machine and baste the zipper tape on. Now that the zipper tape is based, you can see I slipped the end of the zipper, so it's not sewn all the way through. I'm gonna flip my project, put it right sides together, and attach the zipper tape to the other side of my project. I want to make sure that my sides are aligned. You can double check your measurements of the zipper and of the front of your zipper. And when you have that prep, you're gonna take it to the machine, and now you're gonna baste the other side of your zipper to the other outer panel of your pouch. Now that my zipper is sewn in on both sides, I'm gonna split it. And now, before we're gonna attach our lining, we have to prep the lining. So you can put this on the side, take both your lining panels, and now having the small one placed on the side for reference, we're gonna create our pockets on the bigger piece of lining. So you want to make sure that you have the lining right side up if you are using a directional fabric, and that you marked your edges. I have it marked with the little snips according to the diagram provided in the pattern. So just make sure that you are looking at the correct diagram for the smaller or for the bigger pouch. So when you have your lining right side up with your little notches done, first you're gonna fold your lining on the first set of notches or marks, and then you're gonna find your second set of marks and you're gonna fold your lining again, making sure that you folding it at the place when you marked it, and finger press it. After you have your folds down, your lining with the pocket should be the same size as your lining without the pockets. So that's why you're referring to it. If for some reasons this lining is smaller or larger, you can always adjust it, making the pocket a little deeper or more shallow. But for me, it seems to be working out just fine. My linings are the same size, so I can now or finger press my folds or take it to the ironing board and give it a nice press so it has a nice crisp fold. And after I press my lining, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna top stitch along the edge that is folded wrong sides together. So I have this fold that is folded right sides together, and then I have the top fold that is folded wrong sides together, and this is the fold I want to top stitch the top edge off. So when you have that done, take your lining piece to the machine and top stitch along this edge, and you can also baste the sides so everything stays nice in place. But make sure that when you top stitching, you are just top stitching to those 2 layers, and then fold it back up and base stitch the folds along the sides. Now that I have my pocket top stitched on the top and I also basted my sides, I'm gonna divide my pocket into smaller sections. This is optional, so if you like one large pocket, that's totally up to you and based on the purpose of your pouch. But I think I'm gonna divide my pockets into 3. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna fold my panel into 3 parts, give it a press. This way I can see my crease lines. And now that I have that marked, I'm gonna take my project to the machine and I'm gonna create 2 double stitch line dividers. So I'm gonna start my seam from the bottom, go up, go forward and back with the 1 stitch length on the top to give it a little more strength, and come back down, making sure I'm back stitching on the beginning and on the end, and repeat the same thing on the second divider. So take your lining panel to the machine and divide your pocket. You can do 2 smaller, you can even do 1 larger, 1 smaller, whatever you think gonna suit your purposes the best. And just make sure you are giving the top part a little strength with going back and forth a couple times with your top stitch. Now that we have our pockets created, and I decided to do 3, and I created my double stitch line dividers. Now we're gonna take our outer, and also here it's a good time to attach your name tag or back tag. I'm using a tag that can be attached with rivets, so that's what I'm gonna do. And this side where we have the folded end on the left side, that's our front panel, so keep in mind when you're attaching your back tag. So go ahead and do it right now. I'm gonna attach mine around here in the middle. After my back tag is attached, I'm gonna attach my lining panels. So first you want to figure out where you want your pockets to go. I think I want the pockets to go on the back of my pouch, so I'm gonna start with the plain lining panel. So I'm gonna align the lining panel, making sure that they are right sides together with my outer, and clip along the top edge. Making sure my zipper is out of the way of the seam. That's how I want it, so when you are sewing it on, it's still gonna be free on the tail end. You're gonna repeat the same thing with the other lining panel. Here you want to make sure that the pockets are the right side up, so you just check it. Okay, I have my openings, and that's how it's supposed to be attached. And now that you have both lining panels attached to your outer, you're gonna take the project to the machine and you're gonna sew along the long edges with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Back stitch on the beginning and on the end of your seam, and make sure you are keeping your zipper tails out of the way of the seam where your zipper tails slide of your initial seam. Now that my linings are sewn in to my outer, I'm gonna now top stitch the zipper in place. So you wanna flip your panel, making sure that your seam allowance is going behind your outer panel, and finger press it. See, my zipper tail is still out of the way of the seam. Repeat that on the other side. And when you have that prepped, you're gonna take your project back to the machine, and you're gonna keep the lining still open. We don't want to sew through it, but you want to make sure that your seam allowance is folded behind the outer panel all the way through. And you're gonna top stitch along this seam with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length all the way from the from one edge to the second edge. So take your project to the machine, making sure your seam allowance is folded behind your outer panel, top stitch those both seams in place. Now that our zipper seam is top stitched, we're gonna start putting our pouch together. First, you wanna fold your base, making sure you are aligning the point where the base meets the upper outer fabric, and you're gonna mark your centers. After that's done, you're gonna make sure that your zippers are out of the way. You're gonna start clipping the project all around. So you wanna align your points where the base meets the outer fabric. Clip. And now you're gonna align the top panels together. So you wanna make sure that the tops align. It's gonna be trickier because the zipper is gonna make the panels feel like they are not the same size. And now continue with the lining. In the bottom part of the lining, you want to mark an opening. You want to leave about 2 inches on each side. And now that you have all of this put together, you're going to take it to the machine and you're going to sew along those parts. So you're going to sew the sides and a little part of the bottom of the lining, making sure you are back stitching well here where the opening is, because that's going to be our turning hole. Also, if you want to make sure that you're going to have all those crucial parts aligned, you can baste those parts in place first before you create the overall seam. So when you are sewing, there's a less possibility of those little points shifting. So take your project to the machine and sew right here and here with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that our sides and bottom is sewn, now you can just leave it as is if you want the flat pouch, or now you can create box corners. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create just a tiny box corners for my pouch. So I'm gonna take a ruler, and on the panel, when I have my folded edge, I'm gonna measure from the seam allowance and from the edge. So I'm gonna go for just 3/8 of an inch box corners. On my lining, I'm gonna mark it from the seams. I'm gonna now cut all my corners and clip them together in a box position. When I have all my corners prepped like this, I'm gonna take my project back to the machine and I'm gonna sew along all the openings with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, making sure I'm back stitching on the beginning and on the end of my seam. Now that our corners are boxed, if you think your seam allowances are too large, you can trim them. If not, now we are ready to turn our pouch right side out. And what I like to do, I like to butterfly the seam where you have your top corners of your pouch. Do that on the front and on the back. And now turn your project right side out. Make sure everything is looking good, and when you are happy with how everything is looking, you can now close your lining. So you're gonna pull your lining out of your bag, fold the raw edges inside, and now you're gonna take it back to the machine and sew along the opening with the 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length to close your lining. Then you can give your pouch a little bit of a press, making sure you are pressing your lining inside of your pouch. Just be careful when it comes to your vinyl elements. Make sure that your iron won't come in contact with your vinyl. So take your project to the machine and sew the opening in the lining close. Now my lining is sewn close, so that's done. Now to finish up our pouch, we have to insert our zipper pull and our zipper end. So first you want to make sure that your zipper fronts align. Now insert your zipper pull. Make sure that the fronts look correct. Mine look a little crooked. I have to fix that. Yeah, now looks perfect. And when that's done, we're gonna figure out how long we wanna leave our zipper tail. I think I'm gonna leave about 1.5 inches. And now I'm gonna take my zipper cap and a little screw. I'm gonna fold the tape. I like to fold it over and over again. And now I'm gonna insert my cap. And if you think it looks nice and straight, now you can secure it with the screw. And now your little pouch is completed. The project is now completed. I have my pouch sewed up. It was nice and quick. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're gonna give the project a go. If you do, please make sure to grab a copy of the pattern from my Etsy store. The link is in the description box below. And if you want to be notified of any upcoming video tutorials, please make sure to be subscribed to the channel and to hit the notification bell so you're not gonna miss any new release. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave a comment and don't forget to give the video a like. Till the next time.